we have to talk about Donald Trump's insane his insane intentions in entering the Israel Iran war. Just to clarify here, Donald Trump cannot unilaterally seek to have the United States enter themselves in this conflict. Of course, thanks to checks and balances, the separation of powers, thanks to this little thing called the Constitution, the president needs a declaration of war to be passed through Congress before they are legally allowed to enter any conflict. Of course, over the last 25 years, the war on terror has greatly fucked up the interpretation of that clause, and it basically allows the president to do whatever the fuck they want so long as they're quote unquote fighting terrorism. There are a bunch of members of the House of Representatives who are seeking to abide by this matter constitutionally. A bunch of Democrats like Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Greg Casar, but even a couple Republicans, including Thomas Massie, who was the gentleman who introduced this legislation to force Congress to take back their powers as the declarers of wartime. This article is courtesy of Axios, and it says Trump to decide on Iran action within 2 weeks. Says the White House, President Trump will make a decision within 2 weeks on whether to join Israel's war against Iran to eliminate its nuclear program. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Thursday. Why it matters, citing the quote citing the chance for substantial negotiations with Iran, Trump is leaving the door open to a diplomatic solution in the coming days that could avert a major escalation in the Middle East. I don't know if he's actually this fucking stupid or if he's merely pandering and trying to be political. There is absolutely no way that Iran is going to be willing to negotiate with anybody after how they were treated by both the United States and by Israel. Do not get it twisted. This conflict was entirely the fault of both the United States and Israel, indirectly by the United States, by them choosing to not have good faith negotiations with Iran in re-entering the Iran nuclear agreement, which allowed Iran to enrich uranium up to commercial use for powering infrastructure, but well beyond weapons grade enrichment. Trump was basically like, Iran, you cannot have any sort of uranium enrichment at all, which is just fucking stupid. Under Barack Obama, they were allowed to do just that. I've stressed this in any time I've covered this conflict. The gap between weapons grade uranium enrichment and commercial grade uranium enrichment is tremendous. It is literally like 30 times more enrichment to be able to craft a nuclear weapon. It should also be said that Iran has no interest in developing a nuclear weapon. They believe it is anti-Islamic. They believe that it is not good for anyone in the Middle East to have a nuclear bomb. They have been proponents of denuclearization in the Middle East. Israel has not. Let's also go back to 2014 when Iran did have that nuclear agreement with the United States. The IAEA, an independent investigator, came to the conclusion every time they visited Iran's facilities that they were abiding by the terms of the agreement. Israel, their nuclear arsenal is unchecked. They have never advocated for denuclearization in the Middle East. Of course, this is also Israel's fault for offensively striking Iran last week for no reason. The only justification behind these strikes is that Israel is looking to institute a regime change in Iran. The United States is looking to implement regime change in Iran. This has nothing to do with nukes. This has nothing to do with regional destabilization. This is merely Western imperialism and Western aligned states doing imperialism. Trump met with his top national security team in the Situation Room on Thursday, the third such meeting in 3 days. He's seriously considering joining the war, but wants to ensure three things are true. U.S. officials say that a military strike is truly necessary, that the operation wouldn't drag the United States into a prolonged war in the Middle East, and most of all, that would achieve the goal of destroying Iran's nuclear program. None of this is going to happen. There is no military strike that is truly necessary. This is going to be a tremendously long conflict. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan lasted for how long? A decade each? 15 years? apiece, hundreds of thousands of people displaced, killed, wounded, trillions of dollars wasted. This is a fucking money pit for the US government, but it is also a racket for the military industrial complex and the defense contractors. It's effective. Like, if you're Halliburton or if you're Raytheon or if you're Boeing, this is an infinite money glitch. War in the Middle East prints money for you because of the bloodthirsty warmongering leadership that we have in the United States, and the bloodthirsty warmongering leadership that has existed in the United States for the better part of 40 years at this point. What they're saying, I have a direct message from the president. Based on the fact that there is a chance for substantial negotiation that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision on whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks. That was courtesy of Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary. She made it clear that any diplomatic deal must ensure that Iran cannot enrich uranium or build a nuclear weapon. Well, this is fucked because Trump does not want Iran to do any sort of uranium enrichment. And by the way, Israel has gone out of their way to assassinate negotiators in this deal, to take out top nuclear scientists. Israel is, I've said for the last couple of years that, the United States is the greatest threat to global peace. It may now be Israel because they have been emboldened to act like bloodthirsty rogue psychopaths over the last couple of years, more so than ever before. As Trump has deliberated in recent weeks over whether to join the war, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has maintained direct communications with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, as Axios reported Wednesday. Trump said Wednesday that Iran still wants to negotiate with the U.S. and has even proposed sending a delegation to the White House. She cautioned, however, that it was getting very late for talks and he may soon authorize strikes on Iran's nuclear program. U.S. officials say no meeting between the U.S. and Iranian officials have ever been set. The foreign ministers of France, Germany, and the UK, along with the EU's foreign policy chief, are set to meet with Araghchi in Geneva on Friday, a source with knowledge of the situation Leavitt said the U.S. will evaluate what comes out of the meeting. Quote, the president always wants to use diplomacy, but is not afraid to use force if necessary. A European official said the EU's foreign policy chief spoke by phone with Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Wednesday and informed him of the planned meeting with his Iranian counterpart. UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy met with Rubio and Witkoff at the White House on Tuesday and tweeted that, quote, a window now exists within the next 2 weeks to achieve a diplomatic solution. The question, before we get into any more reporting and any analysis, is why is the U.S. even considering entering this conflict? Well, Islamophobia is one, regime change is another, but Israel will not be able to carry out a conflict of this scale. They will not be able to use force to this degree without help from the United States. Their arms are depleting rapidly between not only this, but their ongoing genocide in Gaza, as well as their repeated bombings of other areas of the Middle East, including Lebanon and Syria. They simply do not have the military resources to act like these bloodthirsty psychopaths. Furthermore, and we will get into this when we talk about Iran's nuclear facilities, it is estimated that Iran's premier nuclear enrichment facility in Fordow is buried in the side of a mountain. Well, that's not estimated. That is true. But what is estimated is that this facility is anywhere from 30 to 90 meters underground. I've seen as high up as 100. For us dipshits who live in the United States of America and have our own fucking stupid measurement system, that is about like 90 to 300 feet underground. The Israeli military does not have missiles capable of penetrating that deep. Only the United States does. This plays into the frightening development here with the potential use of tactical nuclear weapons in order to destroy that facility. Tactical nukes are different from typical nuclear bombs. The bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not tactical nukes. Tactical nukes, I guess, are named tactical nukes because they are deliberately used to target specific military outposts to take out something like this underground bunker. But still, the fact that we are even having this conversation. The fact that nuclear weaponry is even being talked about is so fucked up. It is so incredibly unhinged. It is indescribably dark that this has escalated to this point. This article is here. This article, courtesy of The Guardian, was one of the first to report on it. There was also reporting from Seymour Hersh, who highlighted this as well. For anyone who is unfamiliar, Seymour Hersh is probably the best investigative journalist out right now. He's been doing investigative journalism for many decades, and he is seldom wrong on anything. I believe he was the first one to cover this story. The Guardian article that we're going to read does not, it says that tactical nukes are not on the table right now, but there is that it runs directly contradictory to what folks within the Trump administration have said, and I do have a tweet on that from a fellow reporter. But let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Trump weighs Iran strike as Pentagon officials privately divided over bunker buster bombs. Exclusive. The likelihood of a successful U.S. strike on the Iranian nuclear facility buried deep underground at Fordo is a topic of deep contention, defense officials say. Donald Trump has suggested to defense officials it would make sense for the U.S. to launch strikes against Iran only if the so-called bunker buster bomb was guaranteed to destroy the critical uranium enrichment facility at Fordo, according to people familiar with the deliberations. Trump was told that dropping the GBU-57s, a 30,000-pound bomb, would effectively eliminate Fordo, but he does not appear to be fully convinced, the people said, and has held off authorizing strikes as he also awaits the possibility that the threat of U.S. involvement would lead to Iran talks. The effectiveness of GBU-57s has been a topic of deep contention at the Pentagon since the start of Trump's term, according to two defense officials who were briefed that perhaps only a tactical nuclear weapon could be capable of destroying Fordo because of how deeply it is located. Again, Fordo is literally at the base of a fucking mountain. I believe it's south of Tehran. Trump is not considering using a tactical nuclear weapon at Fordo, and the possibility was not presented by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, in the meetings in the White House Situation Room. Two people familiar with the situation said. Again, this is contradictory to another piece of reporting that we have that says all of the options are on the table. There has not been anything outlawed quite yet. But the defense officials who received the briefings were told that using conventional bombs, even as part of a wider strike package of several GBU-57s, would not penetrate deep enough underground, and that it would only do enough damage to collapse tunnels and bury it underneath the rubble. The defense officials were also told that to completely destroy Fordo, which Israeli intelligence estimates go as far down as 300 feet, it would likely require the U.S. to first soften the ground with conventional bombs and then ultimately drop a tactical nuclear weapon from a B-2 bomber. This is psychotic. This is actually unhinged. This is so dark and so dystopian. It perfectly matches up with U.S. foreign policy, who always jump to the most extreme outcome whenever possible. I am not a bomb expert, but I feel as though dropping a bomb of this magnitude is going to have tremendously widespread consequences across the areas near this facility. I just don't see how you can drop a 30,000-pound bomb or a tactical nuclear weapon and not impact the lives of, I don't even know how many thousands of people. Iran has a population of 90 fucking million people. This base sits close to Tehran. I just don't know how you can do this and expect the Iranians not to see it as a form of escalation. Especially, again, they have no interest in developing a nuclear bomb and aren't even close. They're not close to developing a nuclear bomb. However, if I were Iran, and with how the United States is acting right now and with how Israel is acting right now, maybe they should get a fucking nuclear weapon. Maybe they should. Because do you know who has nuclear weapons and doesn't get fucked with by Western powers? Russia, North Korea, China. Maybe they should get a nuke just to just to save themselves, just to use it as deterrence. The assessments were made by the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a component of the Defense Department that tested the GBU-57, as it reviewed the limitations of U.S. military ordnance against a number of underground facilities. The situation underscores the complex nature of such a strike and what success would entail. Dropping GBU-57s would likely set back Iran's ability to obtain weapons-grade uranium for up to a few years, but not end the program completely. Spokesperson for the White House and the Pentagon did not respond to requests for comment. Taking Fordo offline, either diplomatically or militarily, is seen as central to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons after the IAEA found the site had enriched uranium to 83.7%, close to the 90% needed for nuclear weapons. Any effort to destroy Fordo would require U.S. involvement because Israel does not possess the ordnance to strike a facility that deep or the planes to carry them. The difficulty with using the GBU-57 to target Fordo, according to two officials familiar with the DTRA briefing, lies in part with the characteristics of the facility, which is buried inside a mountain, and the fact that the bomb has never been used in a comparable situation before. Quote, it would not be a one and done, said former DTRA Deputy Director, retired Major General Randy Manner, said of the GBU-57's limitations, adding that Fordo could be quickly rebuilt. Quote, it might set the program back 6 months to a year. It sounds good for TV, but it's not real. The bomb is commonly known as a bunker buster because it was designed to destroy underground bunkers, but it can be carried only by a B-2 bomber that has air superiority and requires a solid GPS signal to lock on its target. While Israel has said it has established air superiority over Iran, a successful strike would still require any GPS jammers and other defenses to be taken out in advance, and the GBU-57 to penetrate deep enough into the ground to neutralize the facility. This is something I talked about in the last episode as well. I don't know if the US and if Israel think that this is going to be as easy as invading Iraq was in 2003. If that is the case, they are sorely mistaken. There are many parallels between this and the unjustifiable, illegal, and unconstitutional invasion of Iraq in 2003. Nothing, however, is comparable between the military states of Iran and Iraq. Iraq was a developing nation at that point. They did not have the military capabilities to engage with a regional power anyway. Iran is a regional power in the Middle East. They have a very sophisticated and highly modernized military. It's for that reason that they've been actually able to land successful strikes in Tel Aviv. It's for that reason why the Iron Dome hasn't been nearly as effective against Iran as it has been against Hamas, because Hamas, as Kyle Kalinske put it, was shooting missiles that were just a bunch of bottle rockets taped together. Iran has they have actually modernized weaponry. They have like supersonic missiles that go at like 1,000 miles an hour that the Iron Dome is not able to intercept. Iran built the nuclear enrichment facility at Fordo underground to protect it from the threat of aerial attacks. In 1981, Israel bombed a nuclear facility near Baghdad that was located above ground in order to stop Iraq developing nuclear weapons. In recent years, Israel has devised a variety of plans to destroy Fordo without the help of the United States. In one instance, Israel proposed loading helicopters with commandos who could fight their way into the facility and blow it up, an option that Trump has dismissed, according to people familiar with the matter. That's a fucking Call of Duty mission. This is like the plot of Black Ops 7, where fucking Captain Price goes rogue and parachutes into Fordo to kill all of the IDF soldiers who are attempting to blow up this nuclear facility. Although, there was an amendment to this article as well. Let me just read that for you guys. The headline on this piece was amended on the 20th of June for clarity. A previous version suggested Trump's caution on the bunker buster bomb was because of the Pentagon's assessment. So here I have two tweets that run, well, the first tweet runs directly contradictory to what we just read in that Guardian article. And this is from Jackie Heinrich. She is, I don't know who she is. Oh, she works for Fox News. I forgot. She's a White House correspondent for Fox News. She said, a White House official tells me the contents of the Guardian report are false, that the U.S. military has no doubt about the efficacy of bunker busters in eliminating the site at Fordo, and denying that any options, including tactical nukes, have been on the table. Trump is all on board to get involved in Iran. I firmly believe this. I believe you are naive not to believe this. If he wasn't, he wouldn't have had military bases evacuated from Iran. I believe that if he were interested in diplomacy, that diplomacy would have happened many months ago in the way of negotiating this new nuclear agreement in good faith. But we are not there, because Republicans and really the United States as a whole, they have never met a conflict that they don't like. My next tweet here is courtesy of Sagar. He is the co-host of Breaking Points with Crystal Ball. He tweets, "New, a senior U.S. intelligence official tells me that there is zero independent U.S. intelligence to back up CIA Director John Ratcliffe's pronouncement that Iran is at the 1 yard line of a nuclear weapon. All of the intelligence is from Israel." He continues, "A source directly familiar with the discussions notes that Ratcliffe's assessment is largely familiar with the U.S. intelligence, and that, quote, 1 yard line, quote, was leaked out of context specifically by Warhawks to influence public discourse." Israel is lying about this intelligence. How do we know they're lying about this intelligence? Because for the last 33 years, the New York Times has been saying, the State Department has been saying, Mossad has been saying that Iran is on the cusp of building a nuclear weapon. Let me actually see if I can find it for you. I think I have it. No, I don't want to. I don't want to save this. I want to open it. 1992. Iran is 3 to 5 years from nuclear capability. 1993. Iran pursuing nuclear weapons close to capability. 1995. Iran is 3 to 5 years from nuclear capability. 1996. Iran's nuclear acquisition could be catastrophic. Deadline extremely close. 2003. Iran's nuclear program is a global threat. 2004. Iran aggressively pursuing nuclear weapons. 2005. Iran's nuclear ambitions must be stopped. 2006. Iran could have a nuclear bomb soon. I like the specificity on that one. Soon. 2007. Iran is racing to develop nuclear weapons. 2008. Iran's nuclear program nearing completion. 2009. Iran 1 to 2 years from nuclear capability. 2010. Iran could produce a bomb within a year. 2011. Iran steadily moving towards nuclear weapons. 2012. Iran months away will complete enrichment by spring-summer 2013. 2013. Iran continuing nuclear weapons program. There is an 8-year break here. Some of that is directly the result of the Iran nuclear agreement set by Barack Obama in 2014. It was of course ripped up by Trump in 2016, but the rumors don't start again until 2021, where where intelligence says Iran closer than ever to nuclear weapons. 2022, Iran weeks away from nuclear breakout. 2023, Iran advancing nuclear enrichment. 2024, Iran dangerously close to nuclear bomb. 2025, Iran days away from enriching uranium for a bomb. This is fucking bullshit. Whenever anyone tells you that Iran has the wanting, that Iran wants a nuclear weapon, they don't. They're not close to making a nuclear weapon. It's all just State Department propaganda to attempt to convince the public that this is a good idea. The United States of America is currently, people within the United States of America were polled on if the United States should involve themselves in this conflict. It was overwhelmingly no. That data is in the video I posted a couple days ago. 16% of people said yes. Virtually everybody from every age group, from every gender, from each political party were strongly against getting involved in this conflict. It actually was the lowest amongst older people, the 65 plus group, because these folks lived through 2003. They lived through the propaganda, the ridiculous propaganda from the Bush administration. They're recognizing the similarities in that. And people in my age group, people a little bit younger than me, even a little bit older than me, like, we didn't understand any of that. We didn't understand what manufacturing consent was. We didn't understand that, like, we weren't fully formed adults. We had no ability to contextualize the situation, but now we do. It is so deep. It is an undeeply popular. It is a deeply unpopular. It is a deeply unpopular conflict that is going on right now, and people do not want the United States to get directly involved, as they shouldn't. There's no reason for it, and it's fucking frightening that the Trump administration is so reckless in their quest for violence. It's sickening, it's inhumane, it's immoral, it's disgusting, it's dystopian. It's literally every negative superlative that you can think of. And keep in mind, all of this is happening at the behest of Israel.